Good evening, everyone. And welcome to Talk of the Town, Artist in Residence, Engaging with Indigenous and Endangered Language Communities. My name is Elena Vidal, and I'm Interim Director of Education and Public Programs here at El Museo del Barrio, and I'm thrilled to welcome you on behalf of El Museo to have you join us this evening for this very unique program, celebrating the extraordinary collaboration between artists and immigrant communities across New York City. Tonight, you'll hear from our artists in residence who have been working closely with community-based organizations, including African Services Committee, Endangered Language Alliance, and the World's Borough Bookshop, each with a focus on community service and building, preserving indigenous languages, and celebrating cultural identity. In partnership with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs and the community-based organizations who hosted the artists and participants this past summer, we'll explore powerful projects that speak to resilience, creativity, and shared heritage. Projects that honor the Lenape land that we stand on and the many languages and traditions that now make up this city's fabric. I want to thank you all for being here with us tonight. We're excited to begin this celebration of art, identity, and cultural empowerment through the preservation of language and heritage. Talk of the Town Artist in Residence program was made possible with the support of a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts and Milton and Sally Avery Foundation. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce Andrea Lucio, Project Manager for Talk of the Town Artist in Residence program, who will introduce the artists and the program. And thank you so very much for being here this evening. We look forward to a really wonderful conversation. So thank you, Andrea.
Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. My name is Andrea Lucio Regundi, originally from Guayaquil, Ecuador, and I've proudly called New York City my home for 20 years. I am both a New Yorker and an immigrant, and I serve as the project manager for Talk of the Town Artist in Residence, engaging with indigenous and endangered language communities at El Museo del Barrio. Today we gather on unceded Lenape territory, where the Lenape language once echoed. Now this city resonates with languages from across the world. Since time immemorial, and with increased numbers in recent years, New York City has welcomed immigrants of indigenous descent, and with them their language, largely from West Africa, Central and South America. In partnership with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, we launched a search for artists whose practices center on community and indigenous or endangered languages. Together with community-based organizations, these artists engage in month-long summer residencies in key neighborhoods where indigenous languages thrive. The community members co-authored the artistic proposals we are presenting to you today, rooted in shared experience and cultural expression. And then I'm going to pause a moment just to let you, for anyone here, I'm going to actually switch to Spanish briefly. Para quienes necesiten una traducción simultánea al español, pueden acercarse a la mesa de atrás donde hay equipos disponibles para su uso. So I'm going to get started. Celebrating the cultural empowerment of Quechua immigrants through collaboratively designed processional banners, Hatari Sunchik centers on community voices and visual symbols from places like Cotopaxi. This initiative explores themes of identity, adaptation, and solidarity. The project invites New Yorkers to experience and honor the resilience and rich heritage of Quechua communities within the city's vibrant cultural landscape. Working from Jackson Heights in Queens and hosted by the World's Borough Bookshop, I want to welcome Raul Ayala to present.
Aló, muchísimas gracias a todos que estén aquí. Gracias por haber venido a este espacio, a compartir con nosotros, a celebrar con nosotros, a estar aquí en comunidad, viéndonos en estos momentos tan difíciles y también como que necesitan tanto que nos veamos y que nos encontremos, ¿no? Juntos. Thank you all so much for being here, for being present, for providing your presence in this space, for being able to celebrate with us this moment. My name is Raul Ayala. I am originally from Quito, Ecuador. I've been in the US for about 10 years, and I'm very happy to be able to show a little bit of the process, a little bit of the work that we're doing here. And the first thing that I want to say is that I don't necessarily, this is something that is not necessarily acknowledged too much, but Raul Ayala, the name, is not only me, is a lot of people that are in support of my work. I believe that I have to acknowledge that there's a lot of people that without them, I will not be here, especially my wife, my partner, Fernanda Espinosa, which unfortunately she's not today here with us because she's traveling, but she's a very crucial and important member of what it is that is me, like my art practice. And in that same regard, the first question that we started with is this idea of Aiju, this idea of family. What is family for us? Is not necessarily just our connections with another human being, like either if it's relational, like from blood, or just chosen family, but is also all sentient beings that are part of our system, like nurture ourselves, the dogs, the birds, the food, the plants that are around us. So I want to share that whenever there's corn in my table, whenever there's toasted corn in my table, I feel home. And that could be anywhere in the world, but I really need that symbol and that nurturing plant in order for me to feel safe, to feel okay, to feel that I'm myself in a way. So the question that we started with this project is what is Aiju? What is our family? No, this expanded concept of family, and how can we make it more evident and strengthen that connection with family, with the beings that are in relationship to us. So I am happy to share that I feel that family has been expanded in the US for me, that I consider that this project has expanded my idea of family. That is not necessarily a wide project, but it's a deep project. That means that it's not necessarily reaching a wide net, but it's actually deepening. It's powerful because it's like maybe a few people, but it's very deep. And in that way, we also created this collectively, right? So Atik Pagwai and Nina Sisa, Veronica Muenala, they are very crucial components of this project, of this work that we did together. Again, unfortunately, they're not at this moment with us in this celebration, but I wanted to name them because they're teachers, they're Quechua teachers, they are cultural bearers, and they're also immigrants, like a lot of people here that we identify in that way. And we created this work collectively in Aminga, which is a way that we usually work, a verb that we used to talk about collective efforts, to talk about work that is not necessarily just for a person, but is for a collective understanding, right? And what we did was very simple. We just shared spaces together where we related with our bodies with corn, with seeds, creating these symbols that we remember that are important for us. There's a very important symbol in the Andean cosmogony, which is a compass, is a calendar. It's a way to remember the different celebrations of the year, to mark time. It's called Chacana. And we did it together we invited a lot of people that were passing on the streets, and also people that joined us in several sessions, kind of asking what happens when we bring those elements, when we bring those symbols, when we bring that type of relationship to here, to now, to this space, right? And it was a wondering question that kept us going in this project. It was not necessarily that we knew all the answers, right? We just wanted to situate ourselves in this moment of trying to collectively just hold that question, right? What happens when we relate to those symbols together as a collective? There's a saying in Quechua, Shimika parlakum, maki karurakum, which means roughly say the hand making and the mouth saying, like saying by doing, or that's a kind of a way to learn. Is not necessarily by just talking, but is by experience, by doing, right? So there's a lot of conversations that happen when we create this symbol together. There's a lot of things that we talk, that we connect with, that we just share. And that's a process that builds a lot of connections, right? And it's not necessarily intellectual. It's mostly affective. It's creating an affective relationship, a relationship by affection. Also sharing food. Pamba Mesa, like people coming with their own, like a, what is it called, like a potluck, yeah. That same thing, like Pamba Mesa is like you bring something, and it's those simple gestures that are very deep, and I hold a lot of philosophy for me. The idea of opening your heart, opening your recipes, your history, your memory, the memory of your family, the memory of your taste, of the way that you hold these, right? These memories in the shape of foods. Like I was saying, when I have corn in my table, right? It's the same idea, but creating and knowing that that's important, that's a very simple and deep and important gesture. So our idea was to share food, and then to share this beautiful, playful moment of creation where we created this chacana together. Every time that we did that, we engage in conversation. So we don't really have a lot to show as of now, but we have a lot of beautiful conversation that they become poetic writing workshop. That means that what we did was use this structure called haiku, which is a Japanese poetic structure that is very, very short and very simple. So after we engage in this process of collective symbol creation, all of the things that the body felt, or the mind felt, or the heart felt, were processed by creating poems, doing a writing workshop where we use these 3 sentences that normally are about nature or about what you're feeling, like trying to acknowledge and to articulate a specific moment of feeling. And we did that after we created a minga where we did this symbol, and that was it. That was very profound, actually very deep, and we want to keep going. So I want to share that also part of my aju, part of my family. I consider Cinthya part of that. Really, thank you for everything too. We are in the process of trying to continue with this. This is again just a seed, like. We were using these powerful seeds as a starting point. So we are going to continue with these processes. Atik is going to be doing Quechua classes at the beginning of the process, and then we're going to do art together. And I want to invite everyone here to come to our workshops, to come. This is not the end. This is just like a welcoming and an invitation for you to come to our workshops, and to keep going, keep trying to create this visual poetry where we reflect. Some of the poems were about seed scattering in these different places that glow and grow in the remembrance of our ancestors. And it was Spanglish, it was Spanish, it was English. It didn't matter the language that we used. It was mostly about that connection, about that feeling of remembering and honoring. So I don't know if that's my time, but I'm very thankful for this moment and for you all to be here so present. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí y felicidades a todos los que han hecho un hermoso trabajo. Es muy lindo conocerles y ojalá que podamos seguir colaborando y poder seguir como construyendo estas relaciones. So, by the way, this is going to be in public space. This is it's supposed to be an act of amplification of this knowledge in public space. I believe in public education. I believe in public space. Art needs to be public for me. It needs to reach a wider audience that is not necessarily in museums, although we're not in a museum right now. But I'm very grateful for that. But it's an excuse to keep going to the streets. I believe, especially now in this time, I think it's very important for us to speak up and to have our spirit and our knowledge and our ideas out there, not necessarily inside. So that's why I do what I do, and I hope I keep doing this type of public engagement and this type of public work. So one of the most amazing inspirations was the Parangoles of Elio Tisica. I don't know if you're familiar, but these poems are supposed to be worn, are supposed to be used the same way that we use our bodies to create collectively. We're gonna carry them as banners to march with them, and then they're gonna be in the library for I don't know, like a specific amount of time. We haven't decided that yet, but the idea is for us to put them publicly there in the facade of the building as a reminder that
Thank
we're
you.
here. So sorry.
I'm not sure if, but we
Thank
have
you.
to move on. Thank you so much. And now we're going to transition to our next project and artist. Just as you will guess, when we talk about languages, and when we get curious about languages, we think of words, and we might just need to pick up a book. I would like to present yogi, poet, writer, and teacher, Radhiyah Ayobami, to present the Green Book Remix. Working from West Harlem in Manhattan and hosted by the African Services Committee, welcome, Radhiyah, to present.
Thank you. Hello, folks. Sorry I'm late. You know, it's New York, the traffic, the everything. But thank goodness that we are here to just be together, to talk about language, to celebrate all the different kinds of ways that we survive. And I really do believe that as things are going on, you see, I'm not going to get political, but I will say that art is one of the things that sustains us. We saw that during COVID. We continue to see that. So I hope that all of our projects are ways that will encourage you to think about the way that art makes you survive in life. Like, what are your stories that you have that help you to survive, that you tell your children, that you tell your students, that you tell people around you? So without further ado, I'm just going to get into this project and talk a little bit. I see the folks here in the back from the African Services Committee, and I just want to thank you. I'm so glad that you came. And I hear the baby, too. I'm going to share the opening poem to this piece. And y'all just give me a minute. I'm still getting together. I really think that New York should be like 3 or 4 cities. It's too much to only be one city.
It has 5 boroughs.
I know, but it's of my opinion that each borough needs to be its own city. That's what I think. So I'm going to open with this poem that I opened with in this piece, which is the guide that myself and the folks from the African Services Committee, we created this guide together. So the piece is called Diaspora, and I wrote this piece some time ago, but it really fit for the project, so I just wanted to include it. My hips were wide as a gourd when I left home. Cardboard suitcase, bundle on my head. I walked a dusty road. I washed my feet with a rag. I put on my traveling shoes, and I boarded the bus. I paid for the boat. I tied my bundle, crossed the donkey, and I walked the world. The elders wept and pointed, said, "Do not go into that strange land. They do not cook like us. They are not clean. They follow the white man. They are savages. They live in trees. Their women are loose. Their men are animals. Their children run wild. They will mash you up. They will rob you and kill you." I went anyway, got there and found out they was me. Listen, listen. Close your eyes and listen. In Kingston and Soweto, in Bahia and Detroit, in Port-au-Prince and Dar es Salaam, they are boiling yam and oiling scalps. They are cooking for the church. They are scolding grandchildren. They are birthing babies, making cornbread and frying fish, humming and stitching and repairing the thread, dancing in the villages. They have survived the whip, the hunger, the war. They have survived. You have survived. Listen, listen. The sound of the world is the same all over. So that's just the beginning of the opening to this guide. Thank you. So this basically is the history of, probably most of y'all know, but this is the history of how Africans got to America. And I thought it was really important to include this because you want to know the history of the thing when you're working with it. And so what I have here is the transatlantic slave trade. And this is Africa. This is the West Coast. So right now you would call it Senegal, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria. This is the places where they took most of the people. And we crossed the Atlantic, and then we were dropped off in different places. So you got South America. Y'all know Brazil. That's one of the places where they have the highest concentration of African people. And then you want to talk about the West Indies, so like Jamaica, Haiti, all the countries that you know where African people are. And then, of course, you have the East Coast of the United States and the South. And so you want to talk about, like, every year they have this thing called Tribute to the Ancestors, which honors the ancestors of the Middle Passage, and it talks about how we were brought from West Africa, and New York was one of the main places where we came in. So you talk about that and all the southern states, so Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida, and Georgia. So basically, that just was how Black Americans came to be. And I thought it was important to acknowledge that because you want to know the history of a people and how they ended up where they were. So this is the foundation. And I just want to say that. Mm-hmm. So the Green Book came about. So y'all know the history of it. The Africans were brought to the Americas. We were here. It was slavery. Then we got free. You know, I'm going to put quotation marks on that because freedom is a process. It's never a thing where you get free and then it's done. It's always something else that you're freeing yourself for. But as far as physical slavery, 1865. Okay, so now we're free. And so now we move into this period called Jim Crow and separate but equal. So now we're free, but we don't have access to a lot of things that people in society have access to. So as far as like schools and public transportation and healthcare and education, all of this stuff, we had to be second-class citizens in that. So yes, we had Black schools, and yes, we were allowed to travel, but if you want to talk about travel, we're sitting in the back of buses, and there's some places like waiting rooms we can't even get to. If you know Langston Hughes, who was one of the best authors of the Harlem Renaissance, he talked about that. He was saying how when he came in from Mexico, that when he was in the South, they would ask him, are you Black or are you Mexican? Because if he was Mexican, they would serve him, but if he was Black, they wouldn't. And so the Green Book is what was brought up out of that, because the Green Book was a guide to say, okay, if you're Black and you're traveling to America, here are the places where you can go and be safe. Here are the restaurants you can eat at. Here are the hotels or the homes that won't turn you away. Here are the churches that will provide a safe haven for you. And that was very important to know at that time, because if you as a Black person went into the wrong space, you could be harmed, you could be killed. So it's not even they don't want to serve you, it's you might lose your life. And so this was one of the guides to say this is how to survive. So when I thought about doing this project, I said, wouldn't it be an idea to have something to let folks know how to navigate a new land? Because when you come to a new land, you're just guessing sometimes. Like, you don't know where to go to access help, who's safe, where to go to even get like the food you want to get, where to go to pray, where to go to be with folks like you. And I say that as a person I move around a lot too. And I'm always all over the place. And wouldn't it be important to have a guide to say, hey, here's a place where you can go and be all right? So that's where this developed from. So one of the things I wanted to include was when we talk about like immigrants or people who travel from one place to another, a lot of times it's trauma, but our stories are not only trauma because we bring so much with us. So we bring our religion, we bring our culture, we bring our families, we bring our knowledge. So it's not, oh, I'm just coming and I'm coming from this thing that's very traumatic. It's I also bring everything I am with me. And so one of the things I wanted to do with that is just acknowledge all that we have with us. If you think about it, like, you know, your mama's stories, those are a resource. Your grandmama's stories, your religion, the way you pray, the way you dress, the way you live, the way you enter a room, all of that is your history and your culture that you bring with you. And so that's one of the reasons why I included this slide, because this is Eid, which is a Muslim holiday, and that's a celebration. So I also wanted to say, you know, immigrant stories are not only trauma, but they're also celebration. And that was part of the Green Book. So if y'all look in there, y'all gonna see all these kind of places where you eat, you do art, you dance, you celebrate. It's not a thing where it's only suffering. And I think we should acknowledge that too. This is us kicking it. So we was in there having a good old time. So yeah, we was in there eating and talking, and these are just some of the questions that I asked during some of our workshops. Where did you come from and how did you arrive? How will you live? What has made you silent? What would you say if you could say something? What wisdom did you need? Who helped you? It's just a way of reflection, because like I can say for myself, my grandparents came from the South, and a lot of them did not talk about those stories unless you ask. So if I asked them, like, what were your stories about picking cotton, about rolling tobacco, about sharecropping, about what happened when you came to the North and where did you live, they would talk about it, but only if I asked them. They thought those things were something that we didn't have to worry about. Okay, now we're here. We're in the North. We're in a new place. We don't need to talk about those things. But these things are a guide. Like, they help your children know how to survive.
And just to add to that, your methodology was what we're also showing on the slide are the questions that Radhiyah created to ask the participants in order to create this guide. Mm-hmm. You know, share not just resources for the community, but also ways of emotional entrenchment or sharing.
Yeah, like an emotional landscape. So part of it is that too. It's like, okay, what did you do and what did you need to know? Because people come here and, you know, like I teach in the schools, and so sometimes the children don't even know where their parents are from. And I'll look at a name and I say, well, where are you from? I don't know. Where's your mom from? What's your language? Do you speak your language? Once people get here, a lot of times they don't talk about it. So one of these ways, you know, I wanted to say, record yourself, record your story so that your children know. Even if you never talk about it again, they know, oh, my mom came from Senegal and she did this and this is how we survived.
A writer will always encourage you to write.
Always, yeah. And, you know, sometimes it's a little bit hard when it gets late at night and, you know, we have some snacks and we'll have some food, and I realize now this is my thing. I'm expanding it. So not only writing, but storytelling. I didn't come from a literate culture either. Like, a lot of my grandparents, they didn't read, they didn't write, you know. They would tell you a story, they would memorize stuff, but to write, no. So now when I do this next time, I do it a little differently. I say write and storytell. Like, whatever way you want to get your story in, you get it in, and then we're going to eat, we're going to kick it, we're going to have a good time. And that's where the food is. There was Josephine's slide. Yeah, I want to read what she said. Okay. So is Josephine here? Josephine is here. So Josephine and Rosemary Ophili, right? From Nigeria. And they had so many good additions to this program. I mean, everybody was really wonderful. They shared their stories, and they were selfless in sharing their stories, and it was wonderful. But in particular, they had so many stories, and I wanted to include one of her ways that she said she has for a feel-good formula. So I'll just read it as she wrote it. Do yoga and deep breathing exercises in the morning and evening. Anything that can get you relaxed enough to face the world out there, open-minded and ready to take on whatever comes your way. I listen to African music, specifically Nigerian. I shut myself up in my bedroom and just cry, sing, or yell for at least an hour to release all the stress and worries, even if it's just for a short period. This helps me so much for a healthy life. I feel so much better afterwards. It's great for my mental health as well. Immigrants have a lot to contribute. We come to America due to certain circumstances back home. Be proud of where you come from. So much culture, so many experiences. We are not just here to take from America. We want to contribute to the country. We are hard workers. Be proud. Just know that. I'm not going to say anything else. I'm going to leave you with her words, and I'm even carrying her words with me. So that's all I'll say, you know, be proud wherever you came from, whatever your country is, whatever your culture is, whatever you have to do, be proud. We're here to do what we got to do, and we get to be proud and look beautiful doing it. And it was a beautiful experience. I'm thankful to El Museo. I'm thankful to all the participants. I think we had a lovely time, and I would want to extend it, do it again, eat more African food, and just continue to create, because we need that spirit and energy now more than anything. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Radhiyah. It was great. And I really do look forward for you to keep doing it.
I would love to keep doing it.
Yes. All right. Our next project, Herbolario Migrante, exploring traditional medicine practices among indigenous immigrant communities in New York, and through community workshops using herbs, embroidery, and cyanotype photography. Herbolario Migrante documents and preserves healing traditions that offer alternatives to Western medicine. The purpose is to celebrate resilience and cultural knowledge within immigrant health practices deeply linked to indigenous languages. Working in Flatiron in Manhattan and hosted by the Endangered Language Alliance, I want to welcome Cinthya Santos Briones to present.
Muchas gracias al Museo del Barrio, a MOIA, a Andrea, por acompañarnos en este proceso tan bonito y enriquecedor. Thank you so much for all the participants also. Quiero agradecer mucho a las participantes y quiero también pedirles que si se pueden parar, porque este trabajo no hubiera sido posible sin los artistas, las y los artistas. Even though I am here, like this work has been created by this amazing Mixteco, Nahua, and Guarani artists, and with the support not just from the museum and MOIA, also from Endangered Language Alliance that has been a really supportive, and also they have been my friends for so long. So thank you so much, Daniel, also. I am from Mexico, and part of my work centered in migration. I came here 10 years ago because I was doing a research about indigenous migration from a small community that used to come from El Norte de Veracruz to Flushing, mostly men to work in services as dishwashers and busboys. So I started digging more into this issue of indigenous migration because after NAFTA, a lot of the communities from Mesoamerica and Central America immigrate to this country looking for better opportunities. So I was always thinking about language and how we lose our language and how traumatic and violence is when a culture loses a language. So working and also as an anthropologist and then as a community organizer and now as an artist and having this experience in 2019, I was thinking how our Arabs have immigrated to this country, to this city. When you go to a Mexican grocery and you see the pasote, the cilantro, the romero, and some of the plants are not just from Mexico. They came during the colonial period of time, but some of them are endemic from Mexico. So I was more interested, and I was trying to experiment with cyanotype, with embroidery in Mexico when I was growing up in a small town. My grandmother and also in the school, we used to have an embroidery class, a required embroidery class, and also sewing class. And I was trying to retake all of this knowledge and for healing at some point, but also to rethink my practice. So I just started doing cyanotypes with embroidery, and then I start thinking, and how can I collect all of these memories around herbs and around the knowledge, you know, how my grandmother used to heal me and my great-grandmother and my aunts. So I started doing workshops, and in one of the workshops, I met Maria Jose, that now is my comadre, and she's an amazing artist. She embroiders, and she does these different kind of things. She's an interpreter. And we did a workshop together back in times in 2020, and we make an exhibition with the results. So something that I want to say, even though, and you mentioned, even though I am here and I am Cinthya Santos, the people that lead the workshop, the artists, the participants are the ones that made this work. So it's important to acknowledge that this work is communal. It's not just a person. So then I start doing more workshops and collecting more writing information. And when this opportunity came up, and I was thinking in recording the memories in their own languages in the writing. Some of the participants here, the artists, know how to write in their own languages. Some of them know, but some of them, like Willie, and I am going to pass the microphone soon to them so they can share some of the experience that Willie, that he come from a Nahua background. So in this research, you know, I have been doing a catalog of some of the herbs that have been immigrated and also collecting writings, as I say. And now, you are going to listen, Celeste, when she's explained a little bit of the Guarani and also Mixteco sound and Nahuatl sound. In the workshops, I create also a vibe of mutual aid. I share my knowledge on how to make cyanotypes, and they share knowledge. For example, la maestra Femi, ella compartió her experience and her knowledge of embroidery. Y todas estuvimos compartiendo, not just experience about herbalism. Sometimes we speak about how difficult it is to survive as an immigrant in this city. Other topics, domestic violence, crossing the border. So I want to pass the microphone to Willy, to Maria Jose, to Femi, and also to Celeste to share a little bit about their experience of being part of this workshop or this project, but also what kind of work they did. And also, si quieren mostrar como al público el arte que hicieron, los bordados, parte del resultado.
Podrían tal vez todes pasar al frente con sus trabajos mientras Willy y María José comparten.
So my experience with the workshop was one of, how you say in Spanish, conviviendo. So it was an experience of community, of being together, and community of people with similar experiences and backgrounds. Growing up, I would always hear my grandparents speak to each other in Nahuatl when they didn't want me and my sisters to understand what they were saying. Because I'm sure they were talking a bunch of, whatever, because they didn't want us to hear. But it was always been a part of my life. And I found it imperative to try to keep learning my language, because I know my sisters didn't really want to learn. People who are my generation and younger didn't really see it as important. And I saw it as like if a language dies, a culture dies. And if a culture dies, then your background dies. You don't have anything connecting you to your past. So that's why in most recent years since my grandma's passing, I wanted to learn more about my language, my upbringing, my background. And in this workshop, we familiarize ourselves with plants that we grew up with. So like we have the epazote, we have huasontle, and we have cuacharalate, which is a tree bark that my grandparents used to chew on to tighten their gums back in the village in Mexico. A bunch of these ladies right here have created amazing works as well. Many of them are mixed sex speakers. ¿Quiere que te lo pase? Sí, eso es su experiencia.
Kwa andi indo ta shabindo kishando nya kibibiti yo ta naka andi lo shindo sha yukunya ke endi yo nya kibikunda inindo yukunya ke endi. Hi everybody. My name is Maria Jose Prudente, and I'm part of the group Las Voces, which is all these ladies. So we decide to create this group because we find out we have a lot of knowledge to show to our kids and teach our kids how to speak our language. We are Nasavi, which is Mixtec, one of the old civilizations has Mexico. So we don't know how to write in my language, but we try to learn how to do it. And we have a big support, which is Ella, with Daniel. And he helped us to learn how to write in our language, and he helped us to teach our kids how to speak in our language. So it's very helpful how the work that what he's doing with us. And it's very hard that we have to connect into our roots in this country. As a new land that we live, we have to find a way how to survive in this land. So one of the things that we find out is the food. So we meet up and we're talking about food, we're talking about language, and we're talking about how we can teach our kids to speak our language. So it's very hard because we have to work too. So the work of as a mother, and or as a woman in the family is very hard, but we try to find out the day, how we have to meet up, and we have to do it fun for our kids so they can learn to speak our language. So talking about herbs is it's very hard for us to find out where we can find some of those leaves. But it's something that we used to eat every day. And our gastronomy is something that we use every day. But besides that is food, is something that is helping to our health. So we have to learn how to, if we don't know how to cook with it, we have to learn how we have to incorporate it to our food. So when we're talking about herbs too, we're talking about memories. Because we're going back to think how our grandma teaching us how to drink the tea or for what is that tea. So go to the hospital here when you are sick, it's a big issue. So the first thing that we have to go is to go to the kitchen and find out what we have when you have a stomach pain, when you have a headache. So we try to use that. But when we're doing, we're thinking about our family. We're thinking about the people that we lost. And this is a big migration for us to lose. When we're going back to our countries, we're not going to see that people again. So this work is very hard because it carries maybe a lot of memories, but we try to keep in, and we expressing all what we're feeling, what we're thinking, and the memories too. So thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit in Spanish because my group needs to know what I'm saying. Nosotras somos las voces. Nosotras nos creamos en el 2002 en la pandemia y hemos aprendido a abordar, a hablar, nos hemos juntado para poder nosotras enseñarle a nuestros hijos a hablar nuestra lengua y tenemos un soporte muy grande que es el lenguaje en peligro de extinción con Daniel Kaufman, en donde nos han dado un espacio para nosotras poder enseñarle a nuestros hijos a hablar nuestra lengua. Es muy importante para nosotros tener espacios en donde nosotras podamos reunirnos y podamos enseñarle a nuestros hijos cuál es nuestra cultura, cuáles son nuestras raíces y enseñarles todo el conocimiento que tenemos como nasavis. Nosotros somos mujeres indígenas que hablamos una lengua y somos de una cultura que es la mixteca, una de las grandes civilizaciones que ha existido en México y que no queremos que se pierda todo ese conocimiento. Como nosotras, nuestras abuelas, nuestros ancestros también tenían mucho conocimiento y que nosotros queremos rescatar y muchas de nosotras lo tenemos porque es lo que nosotras somos. Y el conocimiento que tenemos muchas veces lo queremos compartir con la gente. Una de las cosas que hemos estado trabajando en este herbolario son las hierbitas en donde nosotras hemos bordado con base a experiencias que hemos tenido con las hierbas. En mi caso, hice la flor de cempasúchil porque es algo con lo que me identifico mucho. El Día de Muertos para mí es algo como muy, muy significativo. Es donde nosotros recordamos a nuestros antepasados y la flor de cempasúchil, el aroma, tan solo el aroma nos pone a pensar, a imaginarnos que ya es como temporada de volver a recibir nuestros fieles difuntos. Y pues mis compañeras, cada una de ellas hizo conforme a lo que ellas querían expresar. No sé si quiero decir algo por ahí.
Buenas noches, tengan todos ustedes. Antes que nada, quiero agradecerle a Cinthya y el señor Daniel por este gran proyecto que hemos hecho. Estoy muy feliz por estar aquí y voy a hablar sobre las hierbitas que yo hice, que son los epazotes, casi todos son como curativas para nosotros los de la región de la montaña. Entonces, también cada una tiene como significado, pero también cada una lleva como, para nosotros, usamos para curar cuando estamos enfermos. Igualmente yo hice las flores, que son cuando nos duele el estómago, como dice la compañera, también son como unos, ¿cómo es que se le llama? algo para el estómago también, que son estos. Son como un tipo de maderitas o chicuachalalate que se llama. Entonces también estos, todos tienen como significado también para nosotros. Muchas gracias, es todo.
Para el panel. Para el panel. Ya.
Buenas noches a todos, a los que nos acompañan hoy. Yo le voy a presentarle mi trabajo, que también hice, que es epazote, que para nosotros el epazote nos sirve mucho en ¿cómo le dijera? Nuestra comida, o también nos sirve como para el dolor de la panza. Entonces, estómago. Entonces, como le dijera, para nosotros esto es como para té y para comida también, que nosotros los mexicanos lo ocupamos mucho en la comida. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much al colectivo Voces. Now we thank you all for presenting and sharing with us your experiences. We're going to move on for the panel and some questions from the audience. If anyone here has any questions, comments, anything to share, any thoughts, is welcome to participate. Alexa, if you could approach. Right here. Yes. I'm just going to ask one question and then we can do it. So we kind of ran out of time. I have more questions to make because I'm sure you all have many questions, and our collective hope is that you are more interested in learning about indigenous languages in general, the cultural categories, the values that up to this day are preserved. So that's mainly our hope. So I had more questions, but certainly the one thing I would like each of you to share very briefly so we could have a little bit of time for questions from the audience is while holding these dynamics, these group dynamics, right, while doing this work in your trajectory, which it keeps evolving, it keeps changing, what would you say in this iteration, each of your iterations, is your takeaway, the new takeaways, new things that you have discovered this time around? And I think that the one thing that I could personally say from studying, learning from indigenous traditions throughout is that no matter the language, the values are very consistent. It's nature, it's preservation, it's taking care of the environment mainly. And yes, I would like to hear from each of you what those takeaways are from each of your groups. Radhiyah, would you like to start?
I saw you giving me the teacher eyes, so I said I'm gonna be first. Wow. I think I got a lot of takeaways. So do you mean specifically as regards to language, or you just mean in general?
In general.
Okay. I'm always impressed by the joy in the heart of people that make difficult journeys. And so, like, as we went through this process and everybody was telling their stories and sharing what they do and how, they're working and they're living and they're supporting families and they're doing everything, there was such joyfulness and such hope and such life. I don't know if Jane is here. I think Jane, she was from, I want to say Zimbabwe. I might be wrong with the country. But she just had so much joy. Every time I saw her, I'm excited. she was excited all the time. So I think the joy, the heart, the presence, the hope for life, I think we can all take something from that, because I think we forget how many blessings and resources we have. And when you gather that all together in one room, this is my story, I know this, I know that, I know this herb, I know this medicine, I know to go to this place. All of those things together are what make us all able to survive. So I would say the biggest thing, surviving, and surviving with joy.
Thank you, Radhiyah. Cinthya, would you like to share?
I think this process you reaffirm my idea that community is everything. And to make work, art, and research with community is the most important thing. And most in these days that we are like facing difficult times, make shared knowledge, intergenerational knowledge
Intergenerational.
is really important. For example, looking, Femi teaching Willie how to embroidery, and each other, we were like passing the knowledge. And I think that this is the most important thing. Also, we have Celeste that is making her PhD on language, so it was really helpful because she was like always like giving us ideas and also sharing her story and how she was learning her own language in her country, and that was amazing.
Thank you.
Hello. For me, it was looking at second generation or third generation people from Ecuadorian descent, and actually beautifully reflecting on the connections that they have, like even if it's kind of like getting lost in a way. I feel like even if it's not necessarily in Quechua or not even in Spanish, but there's like a sense of trying to reconnect with a certain memory that is there, right? And I strongly believe that language is the container of culture, and by people being very interested in relearning, remembering language, even if they haven't been in Ecuador like for years or not even in their life, they still have a lot of interest in reconnecting to that. So that was a very big, beautiful takeaway that I had. Yeah.
Thank you, Raul. Thank you, everyone, each of you. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to ask or speak? Any questions? Shy audience? Right. Okay, I think we are ready to celebrate, right? Yeah. Anyone would like to say something else?
I was just wanted to congratulate again. That's such a beautiful work that we just see right now. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here and for showing all of that beauty. Thank you, everyone.
So my question is, like you were talking about second generation, third generation, but how are you making sure your children learn the value of this and pass it on to the future generations? Thank you.
I think that's a question for everyone too. Yeah, I think that's a very important. Thank you for raising up that question. I think we here are trying to drive our research by asking these difficult questions to everyone. So I don't know the answer, but I think that there's a very beautiful moments that we create here to activate that knowledge, to activate that curiosity, to drive our remember by being curious about where we are and where we're coming from. And sometimes we have a lot of these questions inside of us, and we don't necessarily have an outlet to talk about them. We don't have a space to just. Maybe we all have those questions collectively, and a lot of people have those things in their back of their minds, let's say, right? So by us just giving a little bit of that space, I think that's important. And by asking each other that question, I think that we're acknowledging it and we're putting it out there, and we're not silent anymore about that. So, yeah, I think that's important.
One more? All right, the last one. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, guys. You are doing a lot for the city. I always participate in programs with African services, and thank you for giving us back our joy. We face a lot of challenges as migrants, whether from Mexico or Africa, but in this city, we are one. Thank you so much.
Before we end it, Radhiyah, if you would like to read the last piece.
Y'all so daggone elegant. It's like everything you say is just straight poetry. I just wanted to, so the Green Book Guide is actually, I put it on Amazon. So if y'all want to go to Amazon Kindle and get it, it's on there. I also ordered some books, but they came from Amazon and they are not here yet. They're going to get here tomorrow. It's a hot mess, but, but it's on Amazon if you want to see it. I just wanted to share this to close us out. So when we were doing our work and we did the feel-good formula, we were collecting things that made us feel good. And one of the things that the collective came up with was that happiness makes the soul go to heaven. And I just wanted to share this little piece that we had about it. Despite challenging journeys and life circumstances, there was much joy, laughter, storytelling, and energy in each of these groups. People were excited about life and new beginnings. There was a mother and baby that often came to sessions and everyone smiled when touching the baby's little head or feet. There were beautiful young men in the LGBT group with amazing presence and style. There were mothers in the women's group with flowing robes who told stories of advocating for their children. There was a curious man in the elders group who asked me, "Where are you from? Your name is from my country." There was a fearless woman living with HIV who was on a vegan diet and shared recipes and health tips with us to build a balanced life. There was the summer Sunday afternoon I ran into African Services Committee members at the beach, glowing from ocean water and sun. In all of our stories, there are challenges, and in all of our stories, there are blessings. Thank you. So I just want to thank the poets and the writers and storytellers that made this guide possible. So thank you.
All right, so as a community engagement cultural worker, I am proud to say that it took a village, the extended community of scholars, writers, and artists who have devoted their careers to preservation of the cultural and artistic contributions of indigenous wisdom and languages continue to provide to our communities. We all want to thank El Museo del Barrio for pushing forward these initiatives and the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs for supporting it. This program was possible by the resilience and preservation of each participant who trusted their sacred language and culture to be represented in these artistic proposals. We look forward to keep uplifting the contributions of immigrants in New York City. Please join us in celebrating. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to say thank you to you, Andrea. Thank you to all the artists up here. So beautiful what was said today, and to all of you who are here, because as Cinthya was saying, it is in community. We're all in community here, and it's so beautiful to hear your stories and all the work that you did to support this project. And I also want to thank the advisory committee who was part of this as well. So we have una pequeña recepción, so if everybody would like to come, have a little bit of food, a little bit of drink. Thank you to everybody, and thank you for being here this evening with us. Celebrate. I also want to tell you that Cinthya has a beautiful ofrenda, an altar that's behind the stage for Dia de los Muertos. If everybody wants to peek, it's right behind the stage. You can take a look at it as well. Thank you.